In these lessons, we will provide you with different conceptual tools to understanding humans as individuals and as members of the groups. Welcome to the Lesson 3 of Understanding Culture, Society, and Politics. This is Anthropology and the Study of Culture. Humans studying humans. This is the field of anthropology. At the end of this lesson, the students are expected to identify the subject of the inquiry and goals of anthropology. You can also explain the anthropological perspective of culture and describe the culture as a complex whole. You can also identify the aspects of culture and society, raise questions toward the holistic appreciation of cultures and societies. And lastly, at the end of this module, you can also recognize the value of anthropology for the 21st century. What is anthropology? Anthropology is a scientific discipline originated from social philosophy and travelogues of Western travelers. It derived from the Greek word anthropos, or human, and logos, study. Anthropology seeks to answer the primary question: what does it mean to be human? This question will be answered when the anthropology studies humans as both biological and social creatures. Anthropology can be defined as a study of people, the origins, their development, and contemporary variations, wherever and whenever they have been found on the earth, by Ember, and Peregrine, 2010. Many pioneers in anthropology built a universal model of cultural development, kagaya ng kay Darwin's evolutionary theory na sabi niya, lahat daw ng societies ay in the linear evolutionary process. We have the 5 branches of anthropology, namely archaeological, cultural, linguistic, physical, and applied anthropology. The first branch is archaeology that examines the remains of the ancient, the history of humans, and how humans have adapted to their environment and how they are developed. The second one is the cultural anthropology, that study of society's culture through their belief system, practices, and their possessions. Third is the linguistic anthropology, the study of language of the group of people and their culture. Fourth is the physical anthropology, the study of its humans' biological development and their contemporary variations. And lastly, the applied anthropology, the attempts to solve contemporary problems through the application of theories and approaches of the discipline. Like sociology, anthropology developed during the years of 2 world wars by Bernard 2004. And we have the 4 great anthropologists helped to formalize and advance anthropology as discipline, namely Franz Boas, Bronisław Kasper Malinowski, Alfred Reginald Radcliffe Brown, and Marcel Mauss. Franz Boas. He is considered the father of modern American anthropology. He was the first anthropologist to have rejected the biological basis of racism or racial discrimination. Sabi sa history, hindi siya favorable sa theory ni Charles Darwin. Mas favorable siya sa historical particularism, na each society is considered as having a unique form of culture that cannot be subsumed under an overall definition of general culture. Consistent din siya sa anti-evolutionary theory niya. And he advocates the cultural relativism or the complexity of all culture, may it be primitive or not. Bronisław Kasper Malinowski was an anthropologist and ethnographer. He developed what social scientists now call as participant observation. It is a method of social science research that requires the anthropologist to have the ability to participate and blend with the way of life with a given group of people. He is also considered as one of the most influential ethnographers in the 21st century. Ethnographers is literally the practice of writing about people. Alfred Reginald Radcliffe Brown was an English social anthropologist who developed the theory of structural functionalism. Let's talk about the history of the anthropology in 19th century. Anthropologists who were often from the Western societies would investigate on the system of beliefs, behavior, and material possession of the non-Western people, pre-literate and technologically simple societies. One of the classic studies in anthropology was Tristes Tropiques, was made by the Claude Lévi-Strauss, a French anthropologist. This work presented the lives of non-modern societies in Brazil. Because social sciences were imported from the rich Western countries, many scholars in former colonies and developing countries are now clamoring for decolonization of the social sciences. This means they evaluating other peoples and cultures according to the standards of one's own culture. Maraming mga social scientists ang nag-advocate ng decolonization or de-westernization of science. They believe that the methods and concept or the epistemology or the philosophical worldwide that inform Western social sciences are not universal as Western scholar claim. Kagaya ng mga Western medicines, for instance, it is unique product of Western civilization. Outside sa Western civilization, there are other existing alternative medical systems that are even much older compared dun sa mga nakalap na information ng mga Western anthropologists or social scientists. Here we are in the advent of the 21st century, where human experiences diversified, and as globalization effects were felt in the almost all societies, anthropology extended its study to culture and subculture groups in industrialized societies. While science naman talagang kinukonsidered as universal form of knowing, it has to be sensitive when it comes sa local cultures ng mga tao. Like for example, social science, because they study cultural meanings or social change, they must be able to address the concerns and problems also dun sa local communities rather than being merely a tool to continue to control a Western worldview on local cultures. In this era of globalization, the strongest weapon na pwede nating magamit, lalo na kung nag-aaral tayo or nag-observe tayo ng mga tao, is to rely on its tradition and collective memories. Such collective memories can empower us or to them against being swallowed by the torrent of Western values. This is Philip Bourgois, a professor of anthropology at the University of Pennsylvania. He studied the lives of street-level drug dealers. Ano yung mga ginawa niyang methodology para makagather ng information? First, you need to establish the rapport with the host societies before you can extract the life stories of the people. After a significant amount of time, when the key informant is already accustomed to the presence of anthropologists, questions could now be asked. Apart from the interviews, anthropologists can also use participant observation methods. Sa case ni Prof. Lévi-Strauss and Bourgois, both anthropologists stayed in the field for more than 2 years. Tapos, namuhay sila kasama ng community para ma-document yung lahat ng galaw and culture based on interview and participant observation methods. You have always heard the word culture. In different conversation, madalas nga nare-refer na ito as something ethnic. Pero ano nga ba talaga ang culture? Culture is everything that a person learns as member of society. May mga naka-italize na words. Yung mga naka-italized are very important in understanding the concept of culture. Let's proceed to different characteristics of culture. Culture is everything. This implies of all the person's belief system, set of behaviors, and material possession. As such, It can be said that culture is a powerful agent in shaping the decision and actions of humans. Meron din itong material culture and non-material culture. Culture is learned. Culture is a set of beliefs, attitude, and practices that as an individual learns through his or her family, inside the school, church, and other social institutions. Ang mga natutunan nating culture mula sa ating immediate family ay tinatawag na enculturation. Natuto tayo sa kanila ng different values and accepted behavior sa society. Acculturation naman ang tawag kapag natututo tayo ng ibang kultura from other societies. Maaaring ang mga dahilan ay uso ito or maganda to sa paningin natin. Like for example, the Filipinos toward to Korean culture, Korean pop songs, or K-dramas. Pangatlo, ang deculturation. When the culture of the older generation comes into conflict with the needs and realities of the younger generation. Nangyayari ito kasi maybe yung kultura ay nawawala na or the cultural trait itself is the process of being forgotten. Dahil hindi natuturo sa bahay, maaring ganun. Culture is shared. The set of behaviors, attitudes, and beliefs that a person possesses is part of the greater collection of values and ideas that is commonly owned and practiced by members of the society. Matatawag ba tong kultura kung ikaw lang ang mag-isa ang gumagawa at sumusunod nun? Culture affects biology. Humans are born into cultures that have values on beauty and body. As such, they alter their bodies to fit into physiological norms that are dedicated in their culture. Like for example, the Mursi tribe of Ethiopia in Africa. Nagsusuot sila ng lip plates as sign of beauty. Ginagawa nila yon para maging desirable sa harapan ng mga lalaki. Another most popular tradition in China is the foot binding among women. It ensures the potential for good marriage. These women are subjected to decades of physical alteration that involves the restructuring of their feet to achieve the lotus feet. Ang ideal length ng mga lotus feet ay 7.5 centimeters lamang or 3 inches. Ang process nito ay nagsistart mula sa pagkabata hanggang sa pagtanda nila para hindi na ganun kahirap yung pagbibend ng mga buto. The interaction between human physiology and culture is not unilateral. As culture affects the physical traits of person, culture can also be defined by the normative physical characteristics of human. This can easily be seen in the material culture of a society. The design of machine and other forms of material culture are based on the physical traits of the given population. Like for example, ang MRT. They are not completely appropriate for the average Filipino because on the handrails, masyadong mataas, and the concept of space are also varies per culture, given the size of the inhabitants of such space. Culture is adaptive. Culture is a tool for survival that humans use in response to the pressure of their environment. Like for example, the igloo and tupik. Ginagawa nila yon as temporary shelter for the mobile group. They may use animal skins as their temporary homes, or they make igloos during fish and hunting expedition. Another adaptive mechanism that is practiced in the most cultures is the creation of the food taboos. These are the socially constructed and accepted prohibitions on the consumption of several food items. Kagaya ng mga Muslim, bawal sila kumain ng baboy. Kaya ang pwede nilang kainin ay cattle or beef or other primary source of meat. In India, cows naman ang hindi nila kinakain. According to Marvin Harris, these taboos are responses to the environmental pressures on food supplies dun sa area nila. Like for example, nagkaroon kasi ng heavy drought in the country kaya ipinagbawal na ang consumptions ng cows. It expresses which made eating the cow impractical because these animals are low maintenance. And ginagamit din nila yun in farming and for sustainable supply of milk also. Kaya para sa kanila, illogical na ang i-consume ang mga cows. Culture is maladaptive. Culture can also cause problems for the people who subscribe to it. These problems arise when the environment has changed and the culture has remained the same. For example, dito sa Philippines, sa EDSA, sobrang daming sasakyan. Pero imagine yung highways, hindi naman lumalaki. Pero dumadami ang sasakyan sa Philippines. However, Filipino appreciate the value of having cars for their personal functions, not to mention the feelings of prestige and sense of accomplishment that the car brings to its owner. Although considered as somewhat maladaptive, car ownership is still very much popular in the Philippines. The final characteristics of culture is that it is never static. Culture is due to the changing needs of humans as they interpret and survive in their environment. Culture is continuously reinvented by people, kagaya ng clothes at ng pagkain. Culture can be seen as ever-changing. Okay, what have you learned? Para may participation kayo, while watching this video, you can answer the following question based sa pinag-aralan natin today. Theories or perspectives that are essential in shaping an analysis about a particular issue. In the field of anthropology, one of the key points of discussion is the concept of culture. Here are the following: the theoretical orientation in anthropology and the ideas of culture that they adopted. Let's proceed to the last topic of the day, the anthropology in the 21st century. The key strength of anthropology as a discipline of social science is at its holistic approach to the study of humans. Ano ba yung mga inaaral ng mga anthropologists? Alamin natin. Number 1, they study about humans, both as biological and social creatures. 2, human behavior from the time species existed up to the time that it will decease. Pangatlo, they study human behavior from all regions of the world. Number 4, all forms of human actions and their beliefs. Thanks to our anthropologists who provide a degree of keenness to the learners, such as that everyday things are conceptualized and understood within the frame of culture. This develops the vision among the students of future anthropologists. That's the end of our lesson for today. Ngayong araw ay natutunan natin ang iba't ibang fields ng anthropology at natutunan din natin ang different characteristics ng culture. Dinefine din natin kung ano ang anthropology at ang different branches nito. Sana marami kayong natutunan. Hanggang sa muli. Paalam!